Hi everyone, it's Agnes and it's success story time. It's from Jaclyn. So it goes like this. It finally happened. I can now share my story. I know this is going to be long, but I will try and make it as short as possible. In August of 2016, I was tired of the dating scene. I wrote a list of all the qualities I wanted in a partner and then just let it go. Figured I would meet him when I was meant to. I focused on how happy I was with my job and my roommate, our life, thus forgetting all about my list and my request to the universe. I did not fully know the impact this would have, and later helped me during my process this summer. 10 days later, I received a message from my person on a dating profile that I had forgotten about. We lived pretty close to each other, so I was shocked that I had not ever seen his profile showing up before. He was and is everything I had asked the universe for, and so much more. Our relationship began the day he messaged me, and when we met, we felt we had known each other forever. That he was the familiar stranger that you hear about. It was absolutely mind-blowing and we were blissfully happy. In December 2016, he was diagnosed with a tumor in his thigh. I was by his side for everything and through the recovery. We became incredibly close, and he told me he loved me and asked me if I would move in with him to begin our life together in May 2017 when my lease was up. We immediately began to plan our lives and we were so excited you would have thought this was straight out of a movie. As the months passed, old issues of mine began to pop up and no fault of my person's. He told me he loved me. I was the most beautiful woman he had ever known. He wanted to marry me. I was the love of his life, etc. every single day. Yet this did not erase my insecurities from past relationships. I instead projected my fears onto him and it began to push him away. The most loving person on the planet can only take so much, and I pushed and pushed because I was terrified he would leave me. I ended up creating this on the outside. I also had fears of one female friend of his because she had feelings for him. I later confirmed this and my fears became even worse. We tried to get through it, but the damage was done. I had gone from this loving, happy, and secure woman to questioning everything he did, and I got to the point where he didn't feel he could tell me he wanted a weekend to himself because I would question why. This is the true meaning of us pushed out. Because I was afraid of losing him, I was actually losing him in real life. In May, it came time to move in. He said he wasn't ready because of other circumstances. Plus, I was smothering him. I pushed even harder and I moved in. 1 week later, he broke up with me, stating he no longer felt the same and he wanted me out of his life. I was devastated. I couldn't believe the love of my life would leave me. It was then that I decided to do the things differently than I ever had, and I would work on myself and attract him back. I knew the love was still there, but I had done this and created this. I remained friends with him on Facebook, but I was thinking horrible thoughts that he had to be out dating someone right away to replace me. I began looking for meditations and ways to connect with him, and I found you in your meditation to create a text message. It worked! I was blown away, so I listened to more videos and then I found Dan. I listened to your success story number 2 and it was very similar to my story, and then I knew I could attract him back. I was starting to understand about how we do all of this to ourselves, and I began to work on me instantly. I started running again, spending time with friends. I made sure to post what I was doing on Facebook, but not in an obnoxious way. I wanted him to see I was living my life. I did not smother him with messages, and randomly about every 3 days or so he would find something odd to tell me and he would reach out. Then he would back off. This continued for about a month or so, but I noticed that the more work I did on me with self-love, the more he wanted to talk. The conversation was not flirty, just general chit-chat, but I could tell he was curious about my new attitude and what I was up to. I had to learn that when he was silent, not to let that get the best of me. There were many, many nights of tears, frustration, and hurt, but I knew I was growing through it all. I never once stopped believing that I would marry this man. I never stopped believing we would get back together. This is what kept me going. When I would see things on social media that I didn't like, I learned don't go looking for anything you don't want to find. If you look hard enough, you will create it. So listen to Dan and Agnes when they say to stop being creepy. I emailed you, Agnes, and you sent me a message telling me not to focus on creating another person with my fears or it would happen. You told me I was in fact still being needy and I must focus on self-love. I took this to heart and realized I had much more work to do. I also began emailing Dan and that helped me a great deal also. The beginning of July, he found out the tumor had come back. I told him I was supportive of him and I would be by his side the whole time. This was all I could do, since I had not seen him in a month. We talked every few days, and as we got to August, we began to talk daily through just text messages. We started to make plans to go hiking before his surgery, and then he got a call from the doctor. She wanted to do the surgery the next day. I asked if he wanted me to be there, and he did not, but he stayed in touch and messaged me before and after. At this point, I had let go of caring whether he was dating anyone else or had been physically close with another person. It didn't matter to me anymore. Oddly enough, on his way home from the hospital, he randomly told me that he had not been with a single other person since me and he was not ready to date others. This blew me away and gave me renewed hope. He told me he wanted to see me and I went to his house 2 days after his surgery. I had not seen him in 6 weeks, so I was really nervous. When I got there, he hugged me and sat with his arms around me as if nothing had changed. I spent the evening doing everything I could for him around the house. I just wanted to help and I had no expectations of anything other than I wanted to give him love through helping after his surgery. He asked me to stay the night and once again I was shocked. I stayed. Nothing happened other than he held me the entire night. The very next week he asked me on a road trip to Denver, which was a 10-hour drive one way. I drove since he couldn't still being on pain medicine. Before the trip, I asked the universe to open his heart to me and allow him to remember how he felt for me. This is significant for later in my story. I also tried to rush things and it didn't work. I became frustrated with things not going like I had planned in my head, and I had to refocus myself before I made a wonderful time. Before I made a mistake. We ended up having a wonderful time, and the very next weekend he invited me over and I stayed from Saturday until Monday. It was as if nothing had changed other than he was reserved, no kissing or affection, other than he would hold me all night while we slept and we would hold hands while we were sleeping. I could feel this love between us, but it was like the flame was dim. It was there, but not fully. The next week he pulled back. This caused major doubt and I panicked. I began Facebook stalking and it took me about a week to get myself under control. Within another week he asked me to come to the movies with him and his father on Sunday, which was something I had done all the time when we were together, but not since. I took this as a wonderful sign from the universe that since he wanted me around family again, that his feelings were coming back. This became our routine again for a few weeks. He also began radiation and his mood changed from that, along with him withdrawing from me. It was hard to understand if I was doing it or if it was because of the treatment. Then, a couple weeks later, things progressed, some with affection, but I didn't want to scare him off or ruin it, so I just didn't say anything to him. We continued to grow closer and spend more time together. I wanted to show him that I was not that same smothering person I had become. There were several things that came up that normally I would have blown up and lost my cool about with him, and I believe he expected that reaction. Not once did I lose my cool. I remained calm and understood, and I was kind. I still felt that I needed more of a sign, so I asked the universe if I could talk with his brother and get confirmation of what I already knew, which was that he had not been with anyone since me and that his feelings were returning. But this time when he messaged me within hours of me asking, he just began to tell me all the things I had asked the universe for. He told me that my person had not been dating that he knew of since me, and no one had stayed at his house. He said he knew his brother loved me and that the way things had been progressing with the time we spent, that was a good sign. I thanked the universe repeatedly and made plans to see my person the next day. It was the same weekend I experienced the most growth. I realized that I had 3 issues that stemmed from past relationships, and once I figured out It was like a light bulb went off. I cried tears of relief because I finally knew the source and why I had done these things to my person. I could finally let go, and since then it has been an incredibly fast ride. The past 2 weeks have blown my mind. I began focusing on allowing the universe to do the work and trusting it would come. He agreed to come with me to my company holiday party at a golf driving range that is more like an arcade. This was a huge deal because everyone knew him from last year and they knew we had parted ways. I didn't know what to expect, but I was excited. I let the universe have full control. We had the best time. We laughed. He looked at me in ways I had not seen in months. We were not lovey and affectionate, but he was kind and genuine, and it was amazing. As we were heading to his house, he got a call from his military boss, since he is in the Air Force, telling him he needed to go on base for something for a few hours. I followed him to his house and he grabbed his uniform to leave and he hugged and kissed me goodbye. My mind was blown. He had not done this at all since we had been around each other again. Then he got home around 3:30 in the morning. We had a road trip planned, but we were both so tired we slept in, and then he took me to breakfast. We spent the day watching football and relaxing since it was very cold and windy. The next morning we got up for our road trip and left in happy moods. We took our dog with us and the vibe was happy and fun. Then the universe decided we were ready to have the talk. We were driving through the mountains and I don't even really know how it got started, but it all kind of came pouring out. I apologized for how I had been, not because it would fix anything, but because I wanted to say it so he would understand that I knew what I had done. I talked about how I didn't trust him before, but I do now, and how I had to work on me, and didn't plan on grilling him or bombarding him on our road trip, but we needed to talk. He told me he knew we needed to talk and it was time. I cried. I could barely get out everything I wanted to say. I told him I was sorry for how I had treated him when I was so selfish, and I put it all out there. I told him that if he thought he wanted to try again, that it would not be what it was before. I was not that selfish person and we would start afresh and brand new. I wasn't obsessive or in a place where I had to know what he was doing all the time. I told him that I had worked on myself and that I'd learned what unconditional love is, and that I would love him whether he was with me or not, because I didn't need him to love me back in order for me to feel good. He remained quiet but thoughtful. I told him I didn't know what we were, but that I was fine with how things are. He told me he holds back some affection because he never wanted me to think he wanted me just for sex. And we hadn't talked about it, so he didn't want to lead me on whether he wasn't sure. When he wasn't sure what we are either. He told me the chemistry and connection is still there very much, and that he just isn't sure if he really is ready to fully go back into a relationship. He reaffirmed that yes, I can trust him and that there is no one else. He had no intentions of trying to find another person. He said after we went to Denver, he realized he was very much still had feelings for me, which was totally the universe doing things behind the scenes because I had no idea it was happening on the trip. He said he was set up on a one blind date and he went after a week after Denver, and he realized he really felt our connection and he didn't want anyone else. I was grateful for this because it confirmed his feelings for me. He said he noticed my growth and how positive and happy I am and all my progress, and it makes him happy. I told him I wanted to be friends with a girl who was in love with him previously, and I was not fond of her, and his friend's wife. They were the only two I had struggled with due to my only projections of them, and he said he would never in a million years sleep with the girl who had been in love with him, or anyone else for that matter. She had stayed the night and slept on the couch when he hasn't been home, and his brother had a ton of people over, but only once when he was home. And they had company, and she wouldn't ever sleep in his bed. That's just for me. He knows my feelings didn't change, and I told him I would love him for the rest of my life. He said he still cares about me a lot still, and he's never ever spent time with an ex like we do, ever. He has never gotten back together with anyone after a breakup, and that I mean more to him than anyone else ever has. He began to open up even more and said he thought about us getting back together often. He looks forward to our time together. He just isn't ready to be fully what we were because after all this radiation, he's not himself. And I told him that nothing would change from now. I told him if he wants to be alone and have alone time, it's fine. If he wants to be a hermit for a night, then just to tell me and I will do my own thing. I am secure. I know that it isn't personal against me. He said he still thinks of me during the day, not as much as before, but it's because he's also tired all the time. He said, I am not imagining our connection. It's there and very real. He went on that one date and it was like, nope, nope. I told him we can take it slow and keep going. He smiled and said he's good with that and he wants that. I told him I can be affectionate and I don't take it as he wants me just for physical stuff. He tells his friends we're spending time together so they all know. I'm not a secret. My things are in his shower and my sink, and by my sink in his bathroom. I asked him if he cared and he said no, and he was absolutely okay with my things being there and visible for everyone. So we agreed we are committed to each other and not officially back together in talking marriage like we were, just taking it slow. No pressure. The entire drive home was happy and light. We felt that a weight had been lifted. Once we returned to his house, he stopped me in the hallway and hugged me. Then he kissed me. Something so ordinary, but this time I felt the affection right behind it. The remainder of the night I was blown away. I looked at him and felt like I had my boyfriend back. The flame between us was blazing. He was himself, not holding back any longer. It hit me. I had done this. We were taking things slow and learning each other all over again. We had gone from not speaking, him telling me he did not love me anymore, to this. I knew it would feel wonderful, but I never knew it would be this amazing. I cried tears of joy and relief my entire drive to work on Monday. Since Sunday, we have been talking even more. Our conversation is light, funny, and it's easy. I do not have to feel like I'm dragging it out of him. When he reads my messages but doesn't reply, I know he will later when he feels up to it. Just that belief alone has him replying quicker than ever. I do not push him or have anxiety when he doesn't respond. I trust him. I trust the universe. All along, I had signs. I did not have confirmation from him. I just had to trust the universe and trust the signs. I know that I have more work to do, and this will take a conscious effort within me to keep myself on track so I don't slip into my old habits. I still do self-love meditations, ahead in time meditation, and the surrender meditation. I make sure I start my day by saying the things I am grateful for. I write down my gratitude list when I have time, but I make time for meditating and quieting my mind. This is so important. Every single thought you think has power, and how much power depends on you and how much energy you put into it. Thought transmission is real. Several times lately when we are together, he says things that I thought of him saying to me when I would focus on him. A few more times I knew what message he was writing me before he even sent it. My best advice is to love yourself and be whole without them. Be happy without receiving a text or a phone call. Then watch your thoughts. If you find yourself focusing on a negative thought, replace it with a positive one. Anything, and then another and another. Don't talk to outside people who do not understand what you are trying to do. They will discourage you. Do not believe everything your mind is trying to tell you either. Your higher self would never ever say mean or nasty negative things ever. That's your fears and doubts talking. Love yourself so much that others will see it and know that you do. Radiate it out of yourself without having the ulterior motive of getting anything from anyone. That's neediness and it's not attractive. Don't try to force anything. No interactions. Let it flow. This works. It works. It's amazing when we let go. Sometimes it takes a lot of reassurance, a lot of emails telling you that you're doing the right thing. It takes someone saying that you are being ridiculous and you need to get back on track. But trust it. Listen to Dan and Agnes. It works. Wow. Woohoo! That is a brilliant story, Jaclyn. Oh my God, it's got dark since I've been reading it. Lots of love. And I will put down below the meditations that Jaclyn mentioned. And beautiful. Very exciting. Very exciting. Thank you for sharing it, Jaclyn. And thank you for sharing the detail. That was so well written, and I think it really, really helps people. Mwah!